So about their way of life, architecture was complex, comfortable, and massive. So if you guys recall the huge palace that we're gonna talk about, palace life was communal, so was death. They found art in tombs. Their palace was their temple. They had an equal way of life, so there was no rich, no poor, equality for all. Writing was Linear B, and it's been deciphered. Informal design worked with the seasons, and they enjoyed life free from war most of the time. Seems like a pretty mellow group, right? Just chipping away at marble, making these cool abstracted forms. Okay, moving on. So next up, we're gonna talk about the Minoan culture down in the area of Crete. Um, so the representation of the figure form becomes a little less geometric in the Minoan period. We also see a lot of evidence of a lot of extensive architecture during this period, as well as paintings. So here we have the Palace of Knossos, which is the largest palace in the center of Crete. You can see that it's relatively complex in its overall form. It does have a myth tied to it, or it seems related to it, and it comes from King Minos. That there was a mythological story about him, one that has to do with his labyrinth at this palace, and that there once was a minotaur that lived in this labyrinth that would eat his enemies. So this palace was built during what's known as the New Palace period between 1700 and 1400 BCE, after an earthquake destroyed a previous palace at the site. So yeah, in this slide you could see the complexity of it. It was very condensed in a way. It was just more than a living quarter, private homes, and social offices. So, kind of like how in Neolithic we had those communal living quarters, this is kind of similar. So, influences are seen in columns from Egyptians, although their columns were freestanding structures, so not necessarily post and lintel at this point. They created interiors with painted walls, probably taken from Egyptian wall frescoes. So let's take a look inside the Queen's Chamber. So here we have some examples of those painted frescoes. Um, so Minoan columns start off quite thick at the top and then taper downwards to a smaller base. It might not seem so in these photos, but it's such a minimal change. So originally the columns would have been made from wood, but since this site has been um, found, a lot of restorations have happened at this place that are not original to what used to be. So now these columns are made out of cement. There would have been paintings behind these columns of Minoan shields, and then we have the throne room, also painted fresco. Okay. So the most famous fresco at the Palace of Knossos is the Leaping Bull fresco. It's been heavily restored. So the darker areas in this image here are the original, and then the lighter ones are the, bless you, are the modern restorations and additions. In this fresco, you could see a figure grabbing onto a bull's horns, so over here, and then you see him kind of flicking its head and then flipping over the bull. So you see movement in this. So he's grabbing the bull by the horns, he's flipping over it, and then he's landing like a gymnast. Um, so these figures would sometimes be represented by, they would be women due to their lighter skin, but in this fresco, it's presumably male. So with this image, a couple of questions come up. What's the purpose? Was this religious or just entertainment? Was this a sport for them? Bull leaping? We don't know for sure, but presumably this was a popular activity. Uh, we do see evidence of bull leaping in the ancient Near East as well as in Egypt, so it does seem to have spread to the Mediterranean at this point. I know, right? Like, okay. All right, so this image wasn't actually in the text, but this is the fisherman fresco. The Minoans had a deep connection to the sea since they lived on an island. This was demonstrated much in their art, including this fresco. This is a vividly naturalistic silhouette of a fisherman from the 16th century BCE. It was found in the house of Akrotiri on the island of Thera, which was destroyed by a volcano. The fish in this image, I mean, this is so unimportant, but it appears to be small tuna or mackerel. So, what is familiar in this image? What do we kind of get from this image? Exactly, yeah, we have that side profile. What else? Sierra? Yeah, it could be. But also, it could be strongly suggested that these fish on this, act is a way of ritualistic or religious purpose. It's also a way of, like in Egyptian art, we see offerings. So, in a way, this could be an image of somebody offering fish to their gods. Also, again, we have cupbearers. Once again, showing that profile and cup bearing offering, just like Egyptians. All right, finally, we get to talk about pottery. So we saw many. Like we saw in many frescoes, Minoans often depicted the natural world around them. Minoan potters painted these vessels with lively organic forms that enhanced the curved shapes of the vessels. So their imagery would take up the entire piece. It was like they were telling a story on the pot. This type of ware is called Kamars ware. It was the first fine, mass produced, widely traded pottery produced in Crete, dating back to between 1900 and 1700 BCE. So, Kamars ware is characterized by the light on dark, abstract, and floral patterns and elegant shapes. The crafting of these shapes was usually done on a spinning potter's wheel. So, not like what we think of today where we have electric or even a kick wheel. This was done with rope and a stone wheel. And basically, you wrap the rope around the wheel and then you pull it real quick. And then the potter would make the piece. Um, So crafting these shapes was done on a fast spinning potter's wheel, a new invention during the Middle Minoan era. The painted decoration was labor intensive. The most interesting and amazing type of Kamars ware is referred to eggshell ware. It's named that way for the extreme thinness of the vessel walls. So extremely delicate, extremely fragile. So overall, the effect of the Kamars ware was not just to be a pretty pot. but an object which was a wonder to behold. All at once it was inventive, delicate, and full of movement. Probably the most important thing about Kamaris ware is how it helped us map the trading relationship of the Minoans in the Mediterranean at large. Kamaris ware pottery has been found in Egypt, the Cyclades Islands, mainland Greece, and southern Italy. Pretty cool. Okay, the harvester vase. So this vase displays a detailed and fascinating scene of men marching. I wish I had a better photo. Marching and singing in what appears to be a harvest celebration. So, although it's not a grand artistic monument, this is a small vessel. It's about 4.5 inches in diameter. It communicates grace and vitality, typical to this age and Bronze Age of art. So, this miniature scene is carved in relief. It illustrates some 27 men in a procession. Most of these men are depicted in pairs, large, stepping high, and right arms at the elbow, hands held close to the chest. I mean, I know you're not getting this from this image, but it moves around the pot. And for it being so small and having all of this detail is really amazing. But it's being led by an older man wearing long shaggy hair, fringed robe with a scallop pattern. So who could tell me why the pointed vase? Why do you think that this vase didn't sit on its bottom but it was pointed? I'm sorry? Maybe. But this vase was meant to represent an eggshell. And this wasn't actually rather a vase, but more of a ryan, which is a ritual vessel used for pouring liquids. So yeah, those liquids totally could have been heated up, using this base, but it it was more supposed to represent that egg, that delicate egg shape. Okay, I think we have like four more slides. Um, Next up, we have the snake goddess. So, also found in Knossos is the image of the snake goddess. What she meant to the Minoans is not very well understood. When she was found, she was broken with her head and half of her arm off. This is her in her restored state. She stands at about 11.5 inches. She's a youthful woman wearing a full skirt made of 7 layers of multicolored cloths. Over the skirt, in the front and the back, she wears an apron decorated with, bless you, geometric diamond design. On top, she's wearing a short sleeve striped shirt tied with an elaborate knot at the waist, with a really, really obvious low cut in the front. Her restored head stares straight forward. There's a small cat actually sitting on top of her head, and she's got long black hair that hangs down her back and comes up the front. She's also holding two snakes. The Lion Gate also now we're at Mycenae. So we're traveling down. All right. Lastly, we'll talk about the funeral mask, the mask of Agamemnon, which is one of many Mycenaean objects. It is made of gold, found in a tomb. Agamemnon was a legendary hero in Greek mythology. The technique that was used to produce this mask was by hammering. And actually, this has been restored so many times that it's probably not the original image of Agamemnon, and it's probably not even him, uh, due to the time that it was found and the time period it was made. And I have a last video for this. The Aegeans believed in an afterlife concept, communal graves, but were different from the other cultures that we have studied. They buried their dead with gold and objects. This reflects similar concepts and ideas of different cultures which cross geographic borders. And very mysterious group of people also. We didn't understand much of why they created art and what it represented. So we're done. No quiz for this chapter. Homework. Get ready for chapter 5. I would read until the end of this section of columns, but like Casey pointed out to us, it's only 5 pages. I feel like you guys could get a little bit more reading done. Yeah, next week's gonna be bulky, so get ready for it. Okay, and don't forget to also, while you're reading, have that outline out so you can fill it out as you read. Alright guys, have a good weekend.